Now, the antique place that I used to do business in Alton, it's got to the point where if it's just a little bit slow day, they just close at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh.
And Coldwater is really loaded with empty stores.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking that there's over 100 dealers in Allen, and I think some of them might be willing to move to Coldwater.
Well, that's an interesting idea.
Because we've got antique streetlights uptown, and that really gives you an atmosphere. Plus, we got the clock tower, we got Tibbetts, we got lots of mansions. So this would be a logical place for that antique thing.
Yeah.
So let's see what all else I got.
Well, hey, now what about the street lights? I thought they had switched out the antique street lights.
No, we have got a whole setup of beautiful antique street lights. They've just been repainted.
Where are they at?
They're black. Huh?
Where are they?
They're all up and down where the stores are.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And when there's the Four Corners, there's one of them that's got several branches on it. And I've got to find out, there is still a lot of snaky stuff going on here. Certain people are doing stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, here, for example, we've got all these empty stores, and I've got several people that I've got on my list as prospects that might want to get involved with us on different deals. I've got one guy that would love to be the one that runs Buck Lake, and I've got another guy that was checking around to see if they could get one of the buildings to pick up consignment things from other people to put in there and sell. And if you go to do that, you've got to become a member of the Downtown Business Association. You've got to agree to advertise Tibbetts stuff and several other things like that that are discouraging anybody to rent a property. But I'm hoping to see Tom Reed, who was on the police force here, and find out just who some of the people that are blocking the wheels of progress. And I know I need you very desperately to call the man that we're working with, and I can't name him this minute, but he has he's out of the political office of two of the districts in town here, Randall Hazelbaker.
Yeah,
we seem to be a little problem getting Bill Overstreet into the Coldwater. I was born in Coldwater, Michigan, or I lived in Coldwater. You know that one.
right,
And we've got him applied, but it is just isn't happening yet. But I don't know. I'm afraid that maybe we've got to watch out that we don't have a viper in our nest, because I don't know just what the scoop is with Randall. If somebody they got ahead of him or just what. But there is no reason Bill shouldn't be in, because he has a place of business in town where Wood Safety Service used to be. And also, he put a banner up advertising his business, and the next morning they was after him to take it down. And there's been somebody else in town that's had a banner up for 6 weeks, and they never bother him at all.
Oh.
Now, there's a thing in Coldwater about the up-to-date things that are supposed to be happening, like Randall's Antiques thing is.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that?
No.
Sandy can get you the information on that. and I'd like us to be a member of that because I'll tell you why. I'm hooked up with this man, and Bill and I are. I mean, he's the one that is buying some of our old machines, and he's made arrangements with me. He said we'll get this thing going again. You and I will split what it takes in. That's what he told me.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing so far. And so, of course, I can tell you more about that when I see you, but that looks like it's going to be fine. But he should be gotten into the antique thing immediately, because if you go in his office, the walls are just covered with all kinds of antiques.
Oh.
He's got miniature gas pumps that are visible pumps. He just got signs for different parts of antique signs, and it's just absolutely loaded. So I don't know what seems to be holding his membership up, because he's applied. And, you check the thing on the video, and he was listed as an applicant, but nothing is happening so far as getting him activated.
Now, you're talking about Bill Overstreet?
Yes.
Are you talking about just to get on the internet? You mean on the Facebook page?
On the, you know, I was in Coldwater.
Yeah, well, anybody I can add him.
Huh?
I can add him. So what's it?
That's great. Sooner the better.
Now let me find him. So he's on Facebook, huh?
If you get that first page up, I think he's there.
Well, I'll look for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think. In fact, it was my friend Randy Nolan, who is a very good friend of mine. He and his wife are the one who started this Facebook page. They've turned the administration over to another fellow who's a good guy named Steve Bridges, and he lives in France. So he runs this page from France.
I see.
So I can ask him to if he has the. It's probably just he just missed it. But let me see if I can find Bill Overstreet from Coldwater. His name's Bill?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can look into that, Dad.
Okay.
The Coldwater people don't have anything to do with it. It's just something that's run from my friend in France.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, he grew up in Coldwater too, but he just took over the page from my friend that started it. Yeah, so everything's fine. But I don't see Bill Overstreet on Facebook. So.
Well, he just applied.
Oh.
But when Sandy had hers going, and we looked at it, and he was listed there as an applicant.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll look into it.
Okay. Yeah, the sooner the quicker on that one. Because we're very close with him. We're doing quite a few things with him.
Now, he's the guy that owns the Rolls Royce?
No.
Oh.
No, that is John Miller.
Oh, okay.
No, Bill has got a business in town with these great big wreckers with a flatbed.
Okay, I've met him.
Did you meet him?
Yeah, you took me over to his place.
Did you see all the stuff on his wall?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's right. Now I know what you're talking
that's
about.
Him. Well, I didn't realize that you had met him then. Yeah, he said he had met you once. I didn't know if he's mistaken or not, but
yeah, he had a few arcade games at the time, and I think you've added more since then.
Oh, and I'll tell you something that shocked me. He's got one of these huge screens at home because they send these wreckers out, and these screens will show you a whole city, and you can pick it down block by block and house by house. And we had a dear friend by the name of Smokey, who was in the antique record business.
Yeah.
And has a place in Fort Wayne, and he died 6 years ago. But I was at Bell's this morning, and we looked at that, and Smokey's sign is still up. The place is still there. It's closed, but he passed away, and we think there's a whole stock of 78 records at the place.
Oh.
So they've got something going there. And I think I got to get someone around here that's in photography because with the stuff I've got, and are you aware of this arcade that we're working with? Is west of town, right where the drive-in theater is. His name is Matt. And he was hooked up with George Bassett, but he's got an arcade there that is of the quality that would be in New York or Detroit or Chicago. And he's got 2 miniature golfs. He's got a miniature gasoline car thing, and this terrifically big arcade, and one big area that's a laser tag for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also, he owned the Cadet Motor Inn after George Bassett. And he's got a Dickey's barbecue now in the building in front there. And we're doing some business with him with machines.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I can look into this Coldwater thing pretty easy. I see that they have 3 administrators. And one is Randall Hazelbaker, and one's Jim Voss, he's a friend, and the other guy's the fellow in France. And all 3 of them I'm on real good terms with. So I'll look into it. I'll find out what's going on. But I can't find Bill Overstreet on Facebook myself. But if Sandy saw it...
He's applied, but he isn't listed anyplace yet.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll figure it out. There shouldn't be any problem there at all.
Well, I didn't think so.
Yeah, hey, let me move on and ask you something pretty... I found something pretty cool. It's a list of Michigan Nickel records.
Oh?
Yeah, now I think one time you told me somebody came by your shop and bought whatever they could of old records.
Yeah.
Because somebody had a collection of them. Now, they're not trying to sell them. They're just... actually, it's just like sometimes people put a page up on the internet just to, if it generates enough interest, then they can sell that page and it becomes a place where there's, oh God, what was I going to say? Advertising. And so,
well, listen, here's what I would be real interested in doing. If we could get a hold of that person, we could convert those over and have CDs for sale.
Yeah, well, that's not the point, Dad. It's as I say, this isn't really a person. It's just I don't know about that particular person that bought those records from you, but I just found a page that doesn't really have anything personal on it. It's just they just sell advertising for other things, and I think they just figure if they get enough interest in something, then you never can tell what nostalgia or something is going to hit, and when it does, then the people sell their website to some advertiser. But I don't think that this page took off at all. Yeah, but what it does for us is it gives us the names of the songs and such.
Well, have you seen that? Have you seen the list?
Yeah, I'm looking for it right now. So
now DJ did several things with us.
Oh, okay.
He did an album with us, and of course, DJ's been a real dear friend, and even in my sickness and stuff, he's helping me tremendously. And in a few days, he's going to be going to Florida for the winter.
Now,
at this time, he's still in Angola.
What did DJ do before he before you met him?
He had DJ's nightclub, DJ's. He had DJ's nightclub, and he was in other things too. I can't remember what all. But hey, I've got his phone number. I'd like to have you talk to him sometime.
Okay.
Because he's a very dear friend. He'll do just anything for us. And get your paper ready, and I'll get you.
Check your mail today. You should get a letter from me either today or tomorrow.
Oh, I heard about that. I appreciate that immensely. I'm looking forward to that. Okay, here's his number.
Okay.
1-260 665 6302. Is that enough numbers?
Yep.
Okay. And now listen, I think I've got a cell also. 1-473 619 5132. And as soon as we get done, would be a good time to give him a ring because he'll be getting up then. And I'd also like to give you the number. Well, let's see. Now you've reached Bill, so maybe there wouldn't be any need for you to call him again because you already made connection with him.
Well, I mean, you took me over to meet him
later anyway.
Yeah.
But he's the one that's working with me real good. And this man has put this enterprise out by the drive-in theater, and of course, I think it's a definite advantage. It's a advantage to us that it's out of the city limits, because in this arcade we've got a pinball that you can play tournaments on, and we've also got a bowling game that you can play tournaments on. If we got that started, you get a group that wants to start a league, and each one of them pays so much to enter, and then they also pay for the games that they have to use to compete. And then we can give prizes 3 places back, first, second, and third. Probably cash prizes. And the beauty of that is, if they begin to start these leagues, he has just put in a huge parking lot. He had parking anyway, but to start with, it was dirt, and twice he has added to it. And just within the last week and 10 days, he has added the big section to it, and he has parking at his own location for nearly 100 automobiles.
Now, who is that?
That is Matt. His last name is unpronounceable, but he's a real close friend.
Yeah.
And he's the one that's got some machines of ours in his arcade.
Oh, okay. Out there by the theater, or by the drive-in. Okay. Hey, now I want to change subject and go to these records. Okay. I pulled up this picture.
Okay.
All right. So tell me, what I have is Michigan Nickel. I don't know what the second record in Michigan Nickel was. Michigan Nickel 001 was Black Rose.
Yeah.
003 is the Roadrunners.
Yeah.
Tell her you love her.
And Roadrunner Walk.
You got it. Now, do you remember what the second record was?
I don't right now, but we can probably track it down.
Okay. Now, Kevin Herman was number 4, born in Burlington.
Yeah.
And then number 5 was Betty Craig.
Yeah.
What can I do? So what can you tell me about Betty Craig?
Well, I suppose perhaps she's passed away by now. But her and her husband, she was an entertainer, kind of a heavy-set gal, but very, very, very nice. And, of course, I've lost all touch with her.
Mm-hmm. How did you meet her?
Here again, sometime in circulating around, might have been through DJ. I can't tell for sure. I'll have to research that. But I tell you, for the first time in a long time, Michael and I had a long discussion on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I have forgotten so much so far as some of the accounts were concerned that I was very close with all of them. And there was one in Hillsdale that was a bowling alley upstairs. And there was 4 or 5 or 6 accounts that I never remembered at all. Just as blank as the end of the world.
Did they come back when he started talking about them?
Not really.
Uh-huh.
Not really. But it was so long ago, some of that was in our early days.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you had that conversation. So you talked to him a long time, and you just started talking about the old days with the route?
Yeah. You see, he was a partner and serviceman on that, and he got disgusted. You see, we started out when your mother and I got married. I was with WTVB with Harold Munn.
Right.
You know the story of that I was all through the 9th to 12th grade.
Yep.
When we did the recording and public address and stuff.
Right. I have that down real good.
Yeah, and of course, you understand that Harold has passed away.
Right.
And about 3 or 4 or 5 days ago, we sent a letter to his widow mentioning the book and wanting to see that we'd be approved to do this series with Harold and I.
Uh-huh.
And at this point, we haven't heard a word back at all, so I'm concerned about that.
Well, yeah, it's hard to say.
I don't have a phone number on her.
Yeah, it's hard to say, but, it might be...
It'll all come out in the wash.
Yeah, it'll be fine. And even if you don't hear anything back, we can still mention them in your book. There's no problem with that.
Uh-huh.
But it'd be nice just to make contact with her,
Well, I'm sure we will some way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've got a source. The company that he was a partner in is here in town. It's Munn Reese.
Mm-hmm.
And Reese is here, and I think I could get a hold of Mr. Reese and get a phone number on her.
Oh, well, so the phone number you had before for Harold isn't working anymore?
I don't have it.
Well, let me check to see if I've got it, because I may have written it down. But I talked to him on the phone, so I would have gotten that number somehow.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. Well, it's all right. We'll just see. I'm glad you wrote the letter to him.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course, Nancy did.
Yeah, now you said that Mike was disgusted?
Well, yeah. He felt bad that we did. You see, we had the original warehouse we had was the back of the Quincy Dairy, that the dairy business went out.
Yeah.
We had that to put our machines and stuff in. It wasn't big enough, and we had a chance to rent a Quonset out on Highway 12 on the way to Walmart.
Yeah, what was that called? Was it Willowbrook Road?
I think so.
Yeah, I know. I worked there a lot because we used to take us out there and have us clean the shop and clean up machines. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Used to take Mike and
It
me
was,
there back before he worked for you when we were just kids. You'd drop us off. I don't know what it'd be, maybe a Friday night, and
uh-huh.
we'd just clean the whole shop up, and you'd be real amazed when you came back.
Boy, I guess. Well, here's the thing. That was the only housing on that property. And we had it rented, and we had it rented at a good price.
Yeah.
But at that time, the route was really growing and making money. And Michael had mentioned, I don't know, this is where I'm confused. Michael felt that we should have bought that Quonset, but if we had, we'd have bought that whole section of property.
Yeah.
And the price would have been so much higher than the rent that we were paying on just the one building that my thought was, we've got that money, but we're paying out rent to somebody. And our home here at 142 Morris had that one big plot in back where we put our pole barn.
Right.
And we was able to make the payments on building that and have the warehouse, because we made an agreement with the city that we would not put a retail business in there, or we would not be renting space out of it. It would be just our own storage.
Uh-huh.
And we have maintained that. And that's just how I lose it. I lost my chain.
Well, you were just saying, it kind of sounds like, I think I've heard Mike say it before, well, you should have bought that property because then you would have made a lot of money when it got developed.
Well, yeah.
The thing about stuff like that, though, is there's lots of time.
Well, the people that bought it were developers, and I was not.
Yeah.
What I know about developing property, you put in your hand.
Yeah.
And
well,
if we would have bought it instead of just renting, our payment would have went to the moon.
Sure.
In other words, we could have stayed there and rented it, and they might have put other buildings up and sold them because it was their property.
Yeah.
And there's a whole shopping center there now.
Right. Well,
but he feels that I missed out on getting that. But the difference would have been that we would not have our own warehouse, and it would have cost us a lot of money to get it. And I don't think that I could have got involved and done the development to put the property that's there now. That's not my bag.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
Well, I wish somebody would get that through to him, because, you see, when Marion got so deathly sick, we had no business liability or medicine plans for anybody in the family, because our business just started out with one pinball, and then it graduated to some more pinballs that we bought from Homer Bundy, and then it got to the point that we were buying some games, and it got to the point that the coin amusement business was making a lot more than the radio job. So we went full time, and it went long a while, and Mike Benson found out we were in the business, and he was hooked up with Maury Toppin, who was a distributor for AMI jukeboxes. And they wanted to pick up the AMI jukebox business. So he said, we'll buy your route, we'll hire you to run it, and we'll give you a truck, which they did and which we did. But I forget when it was that Mary got sick and got so ill. But her doctor bills was atrocious.
Yeah.
And so Mike had to leave us and go to work at a source that had hospitalization, which we never did.
So you just always paid cash for any of your medical issues?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Just like buying groceries or anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. Well, that was a tough decision, but like anything else, things don't always work out.
Well, we started as a young couple and worked for the radio station. Then we went into our own business,
right?
And we were partners. But then he had to break off and go with somebody that had hospitalization. I think he's always resented it.
Yeah, well, do you think it helped the last time you talked, or do you think it's just kind of stuck in the same place?
I think it's better, but and I think Nancy understands the situation.
Yeah, she's told me before.
He didn't understand that if we'd have got that property, it wouldn't have been that we'd have got it, and all of a sudden they'd have been a development there with a dozen different stores buying property and stuff.
Yeah.
Because as far as real estate, that's probably my poorest thing. The only thing is, I'd like to own what we're set on, and that way we had our property right here with us.
Yeah. Now, is your property all paid off, the house and everything?
Absolutely.
Well, that's good. So, but I didn't know until this point. You made an agreement. You're never going to have a business in the barn.
Right.
I wonder if that would. I had thought maybe in your old age it'd be nice for you to have a little museum or a little store back there that that you could have your books in, and you could have a few things on showcase. I suppose that wouldn't really count so much as a a retail business.
I can do the same thing in partnership with Bill.
And he's right downtown.
Fact, I'd like to see him get some property out there with where Matt is. In fact, I feel that some of that property should be put on, what is it, when you pay a certain amount to reserve something, but you don't take it. But the amount you pay figures out what you would pay if you bought it.
Huh.
In other words, maybe you give them $300 or $400 to hold. But I've got to find out with Matt if he has any. He's right in with entertainment with the big drive-in theater, because that opens every summer.
That's neat. Hey, I want to ask you more questions about the records. And it doesn't matter if you don't remember somebody. Don't travail over it, because I'm just kind of fishing around to see what comes up.
Yeah, okay? We can. We'll see what.
Yeah. So I've got another person. Tell me if you remember him. Vester Burns.
Yeah, my little angel.
Yeah.
He was just a little hillbilly.
And like from what town?
You got me.
Okay. Now so this is one of the things probably people would approach you to make a record. And you.
Beg pardon?
Probably the way it would go is that people would approach you and ask you if you would make their record for them.
Yeah, and they paid for the service of it.
So would they pay you for an initial recording session?
Well, they would give us X amount of dollars, and we would make them 1,000 records.
I see.
And then they were still in the situation that they could reorder and get more if they needed. Probably the two most popular were the Black Rose and the Roadrunners. And the Roadrunners are all done, all dead one, but one drummer.
Isn't that something? What about a person named J.J. Porter? Ever hear of him?
Yeah, but there again, somebody out of the woods.
Yeah, and his record was with the Saints, J.J. Porter and the Saints, and it was Tears Are Falling and For the Good Times.
There you go.
Okay, and it says it was 1970. But I think it might be a little later than that.
I can't. those are just like the Mike and I were talking.
Yep.
This stuff is just an absolute blank.
Well, I'll tell you why that probably is. Same with my life. Kathy and I talk about it. Some years are just a blur, and it's probably because you had so much going on at the same time that it didn't get frozen into long-term memory.
This is true, and we didn't have any thought that there was any need for doing anything different than we did, and apparently we missed the boat a little bit somewhere.
Well, no, you're probably all right, because as I always talk about our aging and our memory as being kind of like an old computer, and it's amazing we remember everything we do. But one of the reasons our old-time memories are so good is because we've talked them over a few times. We've told them a few times, and so we've reinforced them. Because some of the stories you've told, you don't really remember that whether or not you've told me, and that's fine. But I can start to tell the story back to you because I've heard it 3 or 4 times. But the beauty of it is that the more we talk about it, some other details can come up that aren't part of the normal story. Yeah, now I want to move ahead. Ronnie Daniels with Carl and his Fantastic Fugitives.
And let's see, boy, it seems as if I got kind of a fuzzy memory of them. What was the name of the tune?
Hold Me.
Oh, my.
That's all right. We're going to move on. How about Sherry Lane and Norm Terry with the Boone County Five?
Oh, what was their title?
I Know You're Married.
Oh, yes. And what the other side, I Love You Still?
Well, it doesn't say.
I say.
That was your 14th record.
I didn't have any idea we did that many.
Yeah, we got more than that, Dad. Woody Joe Combs.
What was his tune?
Searching for Love.
Oh, my gosh.
And then, yeah, you were no wonder it's a blur, because that's amazing. Then you got another one, Sammy Davini.
Yeah.
Like maybe.
Know You Love Her?
No, Sammy Davini is A Little Bit of Happiness.
Oh, yeah. She was a gal and her boyfriend. But, boy, I would like to be able to get copies of those, which we don't have.
Well, you might have in the shop somewhere.
I don't think so, because I don't, we may have made arrangements to get some from them to put on the route. But I think the records are gone.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't think it's that big a deal, Dad. I just think what's cool is I've got one picture with probably at least 15 records. And it's going to be a nice page. I don't think we'll make a big deal out of this in your book, but it's going to show that it was unique for you to be able to plan your own schedule every day. You could come and go as you pleased. Which, you know, some people, their whole life, 40 years, was spent just clocking in at the same factory or having to go to the same place every day. Even the businessmen in Coldwater, that's kind of nice. They had a storefront or whatever, but they were stuck every day. You got to travel every day.
Well, sure did.
And as a result, you met all these different people.
For the most part, I did 1,000 miles a week.
Wow. Okay, well, here's a name you're going to know. Dennis Bice and the Rhythm Riders.
Yes, I knew him. I think his father was police chief of Quincy. And what was his talk?
Well, he had a couple of them. One is Mile to Mile. That was the 17th record. And then he had the 19th record was Another Time.
Good heavens.
And the other side of Another Time was Jogger.
Mile to Mile?
No, Mile to Mile was
somewhere, I think.
Mile to Mile was the 17th record. And the interesting thing is, on the 19th record, you changed the color of the label to yellow.
I'll be darned. It wasn't DJ, was it?
No, Dennis Bice.
Oh, my gosh. Dennis Bice. I think he was from Quincy.
Yeah, you said his dad, you think his dad was the police chief?
Yes.
Now, how did you meet the Bices?
Heaven only knows.
You don't know. All right. Well, I remember this from the 70s, a record called Across the Horizon. It was a full-length album.
DJ?
Nope. Fowell, Foster, and Briggs.
Oh, my gosh.
And as I recall, that was a departure from mostly you were doing country, and this was more like a sort of a modern rock band. And
I'll be darned.
I think I heard it when I was in college, beyond college, and it was 1981.
Oh, my gosh.
Fowell, Foster, and Briggs. So those were younger guys. I'll bet you they're still around.
Probably so.
And so I'm going to try to track them down. Because that'd be pretty... Go ahead.
How many records did we have altogether?
Well, you had at least 19 singles, and this doesn't even mention, none of these are DJ.
Oh, man.
You think you made a few with DJ at least, huh?
Oh, yeah. We did an album, and there was a couple of high flyers. They was going to make an amusement park called Feather Valley.
Oh, yeah.
And DJ and his group come up with a song called Feather Valley.
Uh-huh.
They had that for promotion. My gosh, I had no idea. We had 19 records, or maybe 20 even.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Now, there is an example, just like I talked to Mike. Forgotten, wiped out.
Yep. But in my testing of your memory, you could still remember them, you just can't remember much about them. And that's the way my memory is too, Dad. I mean, I was in the church ministry for 30 years, and it was just as busy as your work, and a lot of it's a blur. But I've held on to a lot of paperwork and such that I'm going through, and even though I don't remember too much details, I can same thing. I think I'm fascinated by the human memory. You're perfectly normal. So as far as feeling like it's wiped out, it's not really wiped out. It's just that you didn't take the time to really, this was so much activity in such a short period of time. You had other things that were more important.
Boy, it's funny, isn't it? It got to be rhythm. Just, I've got to ask you one thing so I don't forget.
Sure.
How many people are in your rest home?
We have 102.
Over 100 people.
Yeah.
Isn't that wonderful?
Day after tomorrow, we go for an interview, and they're going to check us out, see if we'll become the managers here instead of the assistant managers. We'll be at the very top.
Well, hey, you're capable. Very capable.
Thanks. So tell me, these historical lights down in Coldwater, are they just modeled after the original ones?
They're just like the original ones. They're cast iron, and they're a straight post up, and they have got either one, the majority of them have got one globe. But depending on where they're located, they can have more than one.
You remember that Mr. Green had one of the original ones out in his backyard?
I didn't know that.
Your neighbor. Yeah, I wonder if it's still there.
Well, where was his place?
He was the next place over from on the other side of Mr. Tressler, as far as I can recall.
Well, I'll check on that before we talk again, and I'll let you know.
I can't imagine why they'd take it out. Yeah, it was just like in the yard, and he probably had it on a light switch, so he must have bought it at auction or just got it. Hey, I know I had something I want to talk to you about because I think it's going to be a very interesting chapter of your book. I'd like to go back and talk about the clock tower.
Yeah. I was past president of that, and I listed as such in the, there was a program put out.
Uh-huh.
And And I was one of the ones that came up with having a classification in the donations. And also, I think maybe I mentioned to you, a sundial that I donated is on the grounds right down there now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember that. And of course, Hugh Avery was my neighbor and one of my dearest friends. And his grandson is more or less a partner some ways with us now in the clock business.
Well, what I want to do is go back and talk about I want to go back to when the courthouse burned down.
Yes.
Now, when did you first, you probably heard about it the very next day.
Yeah. Well, to kind of give you a quick synopsis of it, they had the courthouse planned and rebuilt before we even had anything to do with the clock tower. And the city didn't want us to put it on Main Street, so we put it on our own property where it was. And there was a lady that is now in the rest home, and her mind is a little flaky, that said, we're going to plant it and build it in 1 year. And we did. And some of your mother's friends, called Bracy and Jar, were the contractors that built it.
Oh.
And there was a company, South Simpler, but we've got the people, and some of the members are still living, of the Clock Tower Committee.
Uh-huh.
And probably the most famous attorney in town was Harold Bristol. And he had an office just across from the courthouse. And he said, I wasn't real interested in the tower. It was the bell that I'm interested in. Because it was, you hear it strike. And the bell was made by the Melody Bell Company, which is the same company that casts the Liberty Bell. And our clock bell is bigger than the Liberty Bell.
Isn't that something?
So we got a lot of information on that clock tower for it.
So how did you locate it at the auction? You said that you and Hugh went together to the auction. Can you tell me about that? And I would like details, you know. You don't have to summarize it. You can just kind of go back and tell the story how that happened.
I've got just one word for it.
What's that?
Forgotten.
Oh. Well,
but listen, I am a dear friend to his grandson, and I think we could get some information through that.
Well, you told me you went to, in years earlier, you told me you and Hugh went to the auction together.
Well, that possibly is, and I hate it like sin that I can't remember.
Okay.
It's as vacant as flying to the moon.
Uh-huh.
We can research it.
Sure.
And find out some different things you want to know, I'm sure.
Okay.
But, you know, there were several classifications, and the donors are all on program inside the clock tower. And there was quite a number of them that gave $500.
Isn't that nice?
Well, I was a brainstorm that thought that idea out.
Uh-huh.
I remember that because it was such a big item to me.
Yeah. So did Hugh go through the clockworks?
Oh, yes. He completely rebuilt them.
He did,
You see, that clock tower, that movement, was in the tower way up above.
Right.
They normally have the works up across from the movement.
Uh-huh.
But what we did is we made a pole that comes down and drives the gear that drives the faces up above.
Uh-huh.
And a clock tower movement is interesting.
Yeah, sure it is.
So we put it behind the window so it'll be an attraction.
Well, I think I really would like to make a major part of your book, not a major part, but I'd like, what you're going to get in the mail from me is a possible idea for the second book cover. And
great.
And it has
I think I saw, hey, didn't I see something that showed the clock tower and my picture by it?
Yeah, right.
Hey, I've got to tell you this is from my heart. I came out on the photograph a lot better than I thought I would. You got that was beautiful. And I like that one picture of the Rolls Royce where your picture is reflected in the radiator taking the picture.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really crisp.
Use it, I don't know. That's your discretion, of course, but I love that.
Oh, yeah?
I did.
Okay,
but
well.
Here again, you got the whip hand of this. You're definitely top man.
You know, I think that title for the book, Stories from the Top Drawer, I think that's a good title because it's already within our family. I've had 3 different people have different opinions of what it meant. And that gives us a reason to read the book and find out. Because, and it goes back to what you saying that your grandparents, everything on the farm was top drawer.
That's absolutely true. Boy, we could have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah.
But I think that there is more books than you know. Well, of course, you know Tom Goff.
Right.
You do Homer Federer.
Oh, yeah, you already mentioned you want to have that story about the Duesenbergs.
Oh, that is big history.
Yep, I've got that down.
And I think somebody tried to call, but they'll just have to wait. This is our time we do our thing. I haven't even looked at the clock yet.
Well, we're coming up on the hour, but we chit-chatted before we started with the book stuff. I got a question for you. Did you talk to your sister yesterday?
Yeah.
Well, why don't you tell me a little bit about what you talked about yesterday?
I'm trying to recall what it was. We'll have to ask her about it.
Did you ever ask her about that old Henry book?
No, I didn't. But that definitely should be part of it.
Yeah, I'll call her today. I'll tell you what you can do for me. Get me her phone number. You have it right there?
Yeah, just a sec. Just a sec. I'm laying down, getting up.
Okay.
278.
No, it's not 278. That's your number.
Sure. Nancy, you mean?
No, Aunt Sally Cook, your sister.
Oh, yes. You see, my brain isn't quite right. I misplaced the phone this morning even.
Oh.
I've got. I'll tell you about that sometime because I've got a friend that his father was a doctor, and I'll tell you how the brain is. You'll understand how when you hear about that.
Yeah.
Let's see now. Yes, hang on. I'll get that. I'll get right down to it.
Okay.
Now, she has a cell phone, and she has a habit of not keeping it charged up enough. If you talk for a long time, she runs out of gas.
Oh, okay.
Here we go. 419.
Uh-huh.
447. 0405.
What's those last 4 digits?
0405.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll give her a call.
And she is in that nursing home, of course. And she's away from her phone quite a bit because she's in other places, people's home playing cards with them and putting puzzles together and stuff. She's really having a blast. And hey, if you get a hold of her, of course it can't be done this winter, but I want to get that blanket back from the village of Allen because they were going to have it on display, and I think it is displayed a little bit now but the facility they have for displaying is 2x4. And it was all done up, and there's another one that's all done up there. And the thing about it is all the black blocks. I would like to put it on this bed upstairs in our memory room, because Daddy's rocker's up there, and Sandy's makeup stand and finger back there. And it's just I'd like to get that back, because I've got an idea they would like it to be that is left to them. And a handmade would like that, especially with names of the area, and the actual people put their own name and signature on there. That is quite a valuable piece.
Oh, okay.
But the historic of it strikes me better because I knew those people.
Yeah. They had the neighbors' names, right?
Yeah.
It's a little cool. Yeah, maybe we can go take a look at it when I come visit next year.
Well, if you come here the right day, because there's only a few days in a year that anybody can get in and see it.
Yeah.
It's just a great waste of time.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, I think that's been, from what I heard from Nancy, it's a little sore spot with your sister. We don't want to stir up any trouble with her, right?
Absolutely.
Well, remember how how your mother used to get ticked at her brother Tom?
Yeah. Same thing.
So Sally's got a little Angelia in her. You can count on that.
Hang on just a minute. I got to put the phone up to get off.
Okay.
Hang on.
How's that?
Rob?
Yeah.
I got down on one knee and couldn't get up.
Oh.
But I had a chair right there. I unfolded and turned around and sat down in it, so I'm in good shape. Now, let's make sure we got all your stuff, because I've been kind of taking you over sometimes.
Well, my son Joe came to visit you with his kids, and he saw something that you probably had framed or something, and it was you had put together some guidelines for living or for success or something. They weren't all original with you, but they were old sayings or something. Do you recall that? It would be like little tips for having a successful life.
Oh, well, yeah, I've got some of those in my mind.
What are some of them?
Pegs in round holes.
Say it again.
I had a picture in my mind of a little widow lady in her suitcase, and a diesel bus has just left a lot of smoke. She's back there, kind of with her hat in her hand, waving the handkerchief at it as it goes and leaves her. In other words, don't get behind. But I don't know if I had that written. There again, it's among the forgotten.
That was like a little cartoon you're thinking of, a little illustration?
I don't know. Boy, I don't realize what bad shape I am in.
Well,
I guess we'll just have to live with it.
Yeah. Anyway, I think he took a picture of it, whatever it was. He said it was like maybe some sayings that you had typed up or something.
Oh, I guess, yeah, I do kind of remember that, but boy, what and where, I can't tell you.
Yeah, so if you come across anything that you think would be good for the book, anything, just hold on to it, put it in a file, okay?
Well, there's just one thing. The best thing I can do is give it to Nancy, because I can't keep track of stuff.
That's a good idea.
Don't forget, there's quite a lot of your personal records and stuff in our warehouse.
Yeah.
Remember those filing cabinets you put there?
Yeah, I went through them, and so I think I got most of the stuff that was important to me, but when I come, I'll probably finalize everything when I come this next, I think I'm coming in June, because
That's wonderful.
Rick wants to come in June, and I thought I'd meet up with him while he's there.
Hey, that is fabulous. Because you and him are quite a pair.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he's got a good heart, doesn't he?
Absolutely. Well, he takes too good a care of Sandy sometimes. Her bed got broken down a little bit, and he went to work and got the most expensive mattress and box spring you could get, and it ended up being so high she fell out and broke her leg.
Yeah. So you got that rearranged, though, didn't you?
That's secure, you bet.
Good.
Yeah, we took care of that. It's down where you can sit on it and so forth now.
Uh-huh.
Oh, don't let us forget anything that you wanted.
Well, I think I'm okay. We don't have to, we did more talking today about general things, but I went through those records with you. That was pretty important. I wanted to accomplish that. But my time is up now. I gotta start my job.
Got a what?
I have to start my job now. It's 7:00 here.
Oh, okay.
That's what time I go out. But because we're kind of caretakers here, we work all day long on our days, but at nighttime we're on call. We have the office telephone. But at 7:00 I go out and open the office.
I got you.
Now, so do me a favor when the book covers come in the mail, call me and let me know. If
I sure will.
If the mailman folded it in order, sometimes a mailman, it's a big envelope. He might fold it to squeeze it into your mailbox.
Yeah.
If he does, don't worry, because I sent Nancy the exact same thing.
Oh, hey, thanks a million. I'm impressed.
Yeah,
I'm impressed with your ideas.
And they're both. I'd like the one with the clock tower to match the quality of the one with the rolls. So even though it's rough and it's because I was just working with my little equipment, nothing professional, we're going to make sure your book covers are top notch, or rather top drawer. I want your book cover to look really, really nice. So
I'm with you.
So these are just rough ideas to get the creative juices flowing. Another thing I wanted to tell you is that if you come across a book anywhere that you think is the right size or something about it you really like, just take note of it and maybe have Sandy take a picture of it or take it out to Nancy and have her take a picture of it, because that's going to help me size-wise. And any other concept. Remember, I told you I had a concept of having a little feature on the book that you push a button and it's your voice. And
Heaven help us.
Yeah, and that won't cost anything to do at all.
Well, that's the right price.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be fun for me to look into that technology.
That's fine. And if you find out anything about it, I certainly am looking for something that I can put with coin-operated stuff that it would make a little statement or something when they put a coin in.
Well, I don't know about that, but you could do something that a stick, like, because these cards are cheap. I got a card for my birthday and it had a whole song on it, and I'm sure the card didn't cost any more than $2, and so that little piece of technology, probably more effort, in the recording, but of course I can do all that stuff myself, recording and mixing and editing. But the little chip and the little speaker that they put inside a greeting card, it's probably just, it's probably very, very cheap. If you purchase 100 of them or 1,000 of them. So I'll look into that. It'll give me something to learn. The other thing we have to, we've collected a lot of stories now, but what we're going to start doing now, part of the reason of the book cover is take a look at it every day, even say a prayer, and ask God to give us wisdom as to how to organize these 3 books so that it's captivating. And I think we can do it if we put our minds together. And even in our family, we have some very sharp people in our family. Nancy's kids, Barb's kids. We can just sort of share these ideas and see what they come up with.
You bet. Well, thank goodness we got some time. Well, if we get the first one on the track, that can make some dollars for the others.
Yeah, I'm looking for, maybe my trip in June, we might already have one ready to go.
Could be.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so you look at that and you and don't get, remember they're just rough drafts, so they're just something to start looking at.
No problem. We got to start someplace.
Yeah, you got it. Okay, Dad. Well, I'm going to close with an old saying I like: "Keep swinging."
Hey, thank you. You're appreciated.
Okay, say goodbye to the flute player. She's here. Bye. Love you, Dad. Tell Sandy I said hi. Okay. Okay. All right. Talk to you later. Bye. Thanks a million. That's another one.